Hello, my name is Isaac Madsen. I am a PhD candidate at Washington State University in the Department of Crops and Soils. I am also an NSF-IGERT trainee in the INSPIRE program, which is a program which trains scientists to work across boundaries and into policy. And so that's the work I'm going to be presenting on today, is work that I've done in the policy field. So I'll be talking about the application of what we call a research collaboration framework um, towards science-based policy. So just to give you a little background, this is all surrounding a particular issue, which I'll just for a short name called the nitrogen problem. First, nitrogen is necessary for life. It's in proteins and DNA. You wouldn't be living today if there was not nitrogen. Secondly, nitrogen in some forms, in the form of nitrate specifically, in water can be harmful to human health and also to the environment. There's also issues. It can be a pollutant in the atmosphere also. So this is just to get at the idea that nitrogen is neither good or bad. It's necessary and harmful to life depending on where it is and the amount that it's in. So this is an issue for multiple U.S. federal agencies, and also an opportunity for collaboration between agencies here. So specifically, we're talking about the EPA, USDA, USGS, and where they can work together on research and management of nitrogen loss, because this has to do with both protecting the environment and protecting U.S. agriculture. So it fits under the mandates of USDA and the EPA really well. So what we're generally looking at here is two different things the agencies can do. One is finding the gaps in the research. So what are the gaps in the research related to nitrogen loss? And then two, where might the EPA, USDA, USGS be able to collaborate on increased research and also mitigating the current nitrogen losses? So our specific objectives that we're working towards here are building a searchable database of the USDA, EPA, and USGS research regarding nutrient loss to the environment, and two, utilizing this database in case studies to identify research-backed policy solutions. First, to start off about the database, the database, a lot of the database part of this research is actually done. The database is a collection of 20,000 project descriptions from the USDA, EPA, and USGS. So this is not a database of, say, what you think of as data, right, numbers. It's a database of project descriptions. And so it's a bit limited in that way. So this database is really good. Databases are always great to have, but how do we use them? That's a different question, right? And then this gets us into this broader question of how does knowledge get incorporated into policy? When we start asking that question, you start asking, okay, from a research agency point of view, what research has been done and what research should be done? So that's sort of the gaps question. And so now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about this question of how do we incorporate knowledge into policy. So there was this framework developed in a policy paper in 2012 by Stephen Steer that essentially looked at different scientific issues and laid them out where they might fit according to whether people agree about the outcomes of a policy and whether there's scientific consensus. And so we essentially took this and modified it into what you can see here, which is we're calling this research collaboration framework. So in this framework, on the top, we have the potential for collaboration between the EPA, the USDA, and the USGS. And the way this works is that the EPA, USDA, and USGS are all working towards the same goal in the end, which is a clean, safe food supply, without damaging the environment. But they have different priorities, right? So the EPA is mandated with protecting the environment, and the USDA is mandated with, food production and protecting American agriculture. And so, like we said, nitrogen is necessary for food, and it can be an environmental pollutant. These two goals sometimes don't necessarily work together very well. And so it's a real great opportunity for creative collaboration and solutions. And what we're trying to do here by mapping this is just saying, okay, like, here's things where there's a real great opportunity for collaboration. Like, it's really straightforward. There's no conflict of interest at all. It's just really straightforward. Or there's things on the low end that are not so straightforward, right? Example of that could be something like, well, just taking a lot of land out of farming would be one of the best ways to reduce nitrogen loss. But what does that do to food supply? So then the EPA might be like, oh, that sounds good because it fulfills what we're supposed to do. But then the USDA is going to be like, it doesn't sound so good because it doesn't fulfill what we're supposed to do. And then we're trying to get at this level of research. So this is sort of, don't think of it too much as a proxy for knowledge, right? What we're trying to get at is, where has the bulk of this research been done? And where can we reinvest in research to really move towards solutions? So that's just the overall framework that now we're trying to apply this database to. So I'm just going to walk you through a few policy examples here. And to do this, we really simplified what a policy is to just two things. So it's a bit of a gross simplification, right? So we divided them into a policy tool, and that's something like education, regulation, tax incentives, fertilizer taxes, and also a technology, right? So that's technology would be, in this example, catch crops. And here we can see that the policy tool changes from education and extension into regulation. And so what you can see is, originally with education and extension, everybody's like really down with it. There's high collaboration. As you move to regulation, in this case, there might be a bit more concern from the USDA as to what is this doing to agriculture. How much is this really holding our production steady or increasing it, or is it decreasing it? And so that's where this issue sort of comes in. So here we have something catch crops we know quite a bit about now. There's been research going on for some time about nutrient recovery with catch crops. And then, so it's high research, but depending on what policy tool you're using, the potential for collaboration might vary. This is another example, but this is precision agriculture is the tool technology. It's incentivized, and we're assuming both EPA, USDA would really get on board with this. Like, yeah, incentivizing precision agriculture will boost production, but before it's researched, it's like we don't really know what it's going to do. And this is actually an interesting case, right? Because precision agriculture can increase nutrient use efficiency, but there's not been a lot of research done on loss reduction per se. So that's just what we're looking at here. It's how this framework works. And then here's a third example, just showing how something could move through three of these quadrants. So it goes from mandatory to incentivized, stays incentivized, and this is nutrient accounting. So this is sort of nutrient management planning, but depending on the policy it's framed in, it might be seen different ways. And then pre and post research. So just to give an overview of what this should do, it allows these different policy solutions to be fitted into these different categories of being ready for implementation, something that needs more research, something that discussion should happen around, and then something that there's room for research and discussion. Maybe this doesn't seem like it aligns with our goals, but where can we go with it, and what research can we do on it? So the next steps that I'll be taking in this research is testing the framework on real-world legislation. So there's some laws out there that will be treating as case studies, and then a lot of this work will be actually in the application of this database through the queries on specific technology solutions, and looking at this metric for research, for the amount of research that's been done. With that, I would like to acknowledge my committee, Bill Pan, Hal Collins, Rick Rupp, and Stephen Steer. I would also like to acknowledge Marianne Rosum, who was my mentor while I was at the USDA in DC, USDA NIFA, and also my colleague while I was there, Leif Nielsen, who's in the Environmental Science Department here at WSU, and my funding, which comes from the USDA NIFA grant REACCH project, which I'm making this video for, and then also the NSF-IGERT, which I'm also a part of. Thank you.